So just quickly go around. I mean, most of us know each other. Just quick introductions on who we are, what we do, because obviously this video is going to be seen by the other members as well, and also it's publicly available, the expert sessions, so anyone can view this. So it would still be good to introduce yourselves. I'll do it in the order of the screen, but Martyn, I'll leave you for a minute because obviously I'll introduce you and then you can introduce, tell us a little bit more about yourself. So let's start off. I'll just ask Mel to unmute, but Glenn, do you want to start off, just introduce yourself, tell us about what you do?
Yeah, so Glenn Saunders, co-founder and partner of Alderson Saunders Accountants and Business Advisors. Yeah, we're mainly small business accountants. We work in the cloud. We've got a variety of clients that we look after, so we don't specialise in any one thing. Yeah, that's pretty much us, really.
Excellent, thanks, Glenn. Mel, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Hi, yeah, I'm Mel. I've got a little florist shop in Horsted, north of Norwich, and basically I do everything flowers. Excellent,
thanks, Mel. Jamie?
Hello, I'm Jamie Allen. I help businesses with their customer databases, making sure they're clean, compliant, fit for purpose, segmented profiles, so they talk to the right customers at the right time, and help to secure the customers' data through or to guard against breach and hacking through a thing called GDPR tax rebates.
Excellent, thanks, Jamie. Steve, before you introduce yourself, can you just reassure us there's not a dead body lying behind you on the bed, is it?
No, no, it's in the way.
Ah, that's okay then.
Hey!
Thanks, Steve. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Steve from Blue Fusion Web. I provide pretty much all kind of web services, just dedicated to web, so we just do web design, hosting, email solutions, SEO work, e-commerce, particularly specialising in e-commerce work. But also the other side of the business is Fusion photography workshops. So we take groups of people who want to improve their photography to places like Tuscany and Paris, Barcelona, Valencia, all different places, Venice. That's it.
Excellent. Thanks, Steve. Kevin?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Most of you know me. It's good to see that there's a couple of new faces here today. Welcome to that. And yeah, the first gentleman, I can't remember your first name. I'm terrible for names. You said you work in the cloud. Well, me too. I'm sitting up here in the tower crane, and if it gets much duller today, I probably won't be able to see the ground. So, but other than that, yeah, I go race events. We do Formula One simulation if and when I ever get a client again, which would be nice when we get COVID out of the way. Well, I was saying that, I had a call last night from a film company.
Excellent. Good news.
They picked us up off the website, and they're looking for a 3-day hire as a backdrop.
Excellent. Thanks, Kevin. All right, so this morning, I'd just like to introduce Martyn. Most of you know Martyn anyway. We probably first met over 10 years ago at a networking event in Norwich, at the Holiday Inn. Remained good friends and done business together ever since. I think you just know when you meet someone who's 100% genuine and you can work and refer to, and Martyn's one of those people. So there you go, Martyn. I've built you up. I'll hand it over to you. Just tell us a little bit more about what you do and introduce yourself. And then I've got some questions I just want to ask you.
Sure, no problem. Hi, I'm Martyn Oakley from Cog Media. We're a digital media company doing all things visual, really. So from websites, digital content for social media, video, photography, 3D visualizations, PowerPoint, you name it, we'll do it if it involves visuals. So that's what sums up Cog Media.
Lovely, thanks, Martyn. So like I said, you're in the hot seat today. Thanks for volunteering to do that.
No worries.
When I say volunteering, you're sort of easily persuaded. I just want to ask you a few questions sort of regarding SEO, so search engine optimization. Obviously, Steve, you know what we're talking about there. But there's, from my understanding, there's a new Google update. Is it already here or is it coming?
It's here.
Okay, so it's called Web Core Vitals. Is that correct?
It is indeed.
Right. So I sort of get the basics. I know it's affected my website.
Yeah.
And you're going to show us in a minute how it's affected my website.
Yeah.
But can you explain a little bit more about what Web Core Vitals is all about, please?
Web Core Vitals is a new part of the algorithm that Google will be using to partially rank your website. So it's all about the user experience. Google a while back moved over to preferring to do its ranking based on your mobile profile as opposed to your desktop. As a designer, in the early days, it'll be always be a case that you design the website for desktop, and then you'd work your way down to mobile, where now that has to be taken into consideration, and it'll be all part of the best practice to get your website approved by Google. And Google's algorithm is, or the Web Core Vitals is only based on users using Chrome. So if you're going in using a Safari or something like that, then those factors and figures don't come in. It's all based on sort of the last 28 days worth of data that Google has received from your website on your best practice, all the things that you've done to get your website up and running and applied to the search engines.
So it ranks you on the last 28 days?
Yeah, it looks back over the last 28 days of your performance.
Okay, so is there anywhere, like, obviously myself and the other members on here as well, can we find out how Google view our sites?
Yeah, there's depending on, I don't know how many of you have got your websites and you've got sort of the ownership of your websites when it comes to things like Google Analytics. If you haven't got access to your Google Analytics data, there's a simple tool and a website that Google give you access to, where you'll just put in your URL, which is your web address, and it can either be your homepage, or if you've got a particular new page and you want to see how it's functioning, you can do it, to pick out an individual page. If we just go to sharing my screen.
This is where it all falls down when we start getting technical.
Okay, so I assume you can all see my screen now.
No.
Nope.
Nope.
Try again.
There we go. I think it's
There we
coming
go.
up. Yep,
Okay.
perfect.
Right. Okay. So
Can everyone see that? Just give us a thumbs up. Yep.
Brilliant.
Mel,
lovely.
Glenn, Jamie, Steve, perfect. Kevin, can you see that? Okay. Yep, perfect.
Okay, so there's a web address which is developers.google.com page speed and insights. All I can do is maybe give you a link to add to any documentation that drops to the bottom of this afterwards, Martin, but that will go off and rank your website.
Okay.
Now, I'm guilty, as a lot of web designers probably are. We like to make things look whiz bang and all singing, all dancing. The part of the new sort of Web Vitals that Google have brought in, you're going to start getting penalized for stuff like that. So, for instance, on my screen now, you've got the Cog Media existing website. So not looking great on mobile, so on the desktop version. With the Web Vitals coming out, I've started to do some sort of research into how I can improve that. So with changing a few bits of the technology in the background, I've already managed to have a development site which has got me a lot better when it comes to mobile, and very good on the desktop. So it's a lot of websites that are aging or use all the nice pretty things to sort of make websites look attractive to the visitors. You're going to start getting penalized for those sort of things. There's a particularly interesting one here, which is your website, Martin. Looks beautiful, loads nice and quick. Loads nice and quick, unless you're Google. Google give you a little bit of a spanking. We've got the little graph of how Google sees your page loading. So no one of those boxes is the same. So you've got content that comes flying in. You have to wait, especially if you're on mobile, before anything happens on your website, before somebody can click and interact with you. I'll go over all of this as we work our way down. There's lots of little reds on there, so there's lots of best practice that we're not we're not using. And you can also then go off and Google analyze everything using their system called Lighthouse. You can go in and get a bigger breakdown. There'll be a lot of information that will come up on there. I think we had a little chat beforehand, and I used the analogy of when you go out to your car, you put your key in the engine, turn the engine over and nothing happens. The first thing you do is you get out and you lift the bonnet. Why? What are the chances of you being able to fix your own car these days? It's not going to happen. So, I mean, there's lots on there that's flying up that Google doesn't like. Some of the things we can sort of rectify quite quickly. It depends if you've got the ownership of your own site or whether you've had a firm come in and do it. I would say, I mean, I'm approaching a lot of my existing clients and saying, you know, we can do some revamps on the stuff that, you know, we designed to make your site look pretty and attractive to the clients or to the, you know, your viewing audience, where now you need to massage Google before you massage anybody else, basically. So,
Okay.
so yes.
Sorry, Martin, just a quick round robin. Who actually manages their own website, and who, so hands up those that manage their own website? Obviously Steve, Jamie, all of them. So I don't know, can't see Mel, she's obviously getting a delivery. So they're all managing their own website at the moment. So these, using something like this, it will help Glenn, Jamie, Steve, Kevin to go in, be able to go into their website and make quick changes to make it improve in the eyes of Google.
Yeah, I mean, probably the next question off the back of that would be, what do people use to do their website? So I'm going to have a wild stab in the dark and say most people will either be using the WordPress platform with a theme or a template. Oh, we got one from Jamie there. Or they'll be using other page builders like Wix. And I've got an example of Wix and stuff on there. So obviously, Jamie, is there anybody else using WordPress for their back ends?
Yeah. Glenn, myself, Steve, Kevin, do you know what you're using?
Yeah, WordPress.
WordPress, yep. Mel? Hang on, you're on mute, Mel.
I think she put a hand up for WordPress, didn't she?
Right.
And
we've only just started getting into WordPress, as Martin knows. So
okay.
you know,
Yeah, sorry, Mel.
I just know that's WooCommerce. I don't know if that's WordPress or not.
I think it's probably WordPress.
If you're running WooCommerce, then you're running,
definitely.
WordPress. So if the majority of the people here are using WordPress, that's pretty good, because it allows. And as a designer, I'm a great believer if you can take ownership and control of your website and add your own blogs. If you've got WooCommerce, you're adding your own stock, and you've got your online shopper going out there. So that's absolutely fantastic. Out of interest, Mel, do you have Google Analytics running on your website? Could you see, how deep do you go into using your website? Do you know how well your website's faring? And I think it was a bit of a shake of the head there. Can anyone else hear?
No, I can't hear Mel. No.
So it's great that if you've got access to the back end, you can sort of see the things that are going wrong.
Yeah.
There are plugins that you can add to website. I'm a disbeliever of adding too many plugins to a website, but there's some very good ones for SEO and for speed changing or speed increases on your website, which will go in and improve your score by supplying your website in a format that Google likes, and just making sure a little bit more compliant. Again, it's that bonnet lifted moment.
What plugins would you recommend, Martin? I use Rank Math for the SEO, but for page speed, what would you recommend?
Rank Math, yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the two top ones, is that and Yoast, but I think Rank Math is the freebie option, is definitely one of the better ones.
Okay.
I would say for speed, I use WP Rocket, and I've got the paid version of that one, which I roll out across all the clients. And that will allow you to compress files, again, this is the bonnet lifting moment, compress all the files that are delivered to display your website. Okay. So, just to get a picture and a piece of text on your screen, the computer needs to talk to or your server needs to talk to the internet and say, okay, I've got this image, I'm displaying this image through WordPress. And then it will describe the image and say how big it is for both mobile and desktop. So there's lots that go on in just putting an image and a piece of text on a website. and there's lots of libraries. WordPress is a great platform. If you're not a web designer, you can get something, looking pretty impressive on a website, without approaching somebody like myself or Steve to do your own websites.
So obviously that's pretty scary, saying my score of 8 there. So is that Web Core Vitals that's affecting my website?
That's a combination of everything with Web Core Vitals, good practice. You are ticking a lot of the boxes. Obviously that does look quite daunting and scary, but at the end of the day, is your website functioning? Do you promote? I've got some clients that will design their website. They'll want a blog. They'll want everything. I hand the website over, and that's probably the last time they really look at it. Unless, for instance, we'll say about Mel again, she's got a product, she'll be putting products on hopefully all the time. I'd like to think people blog. That's a great way of keeping content going to your website. So it's all these things that Google likes, as well as the Web Core Vitals.
Okay.
The way Google is looking at it is they're trying to give the end user the best experience possible. And if you can't be bothered to give the end user a pleasurable way of finding information and not misleading, or got a website that doesn't quite function correctly, there's nothing worse than a website starts to load up, you go to click on a button and another piece of content comes in, shifts that button down, and you click on something completely different. It's those sort of things that Google are now trying to iron out. I can't help think that websites are going to start looking very samey. All the creative side and the pretty things that makes websites stand out. I'm guilty of it myself. I'm having to have a rethink on the way my website works.
Well, that's exactly what I was then thinking, because it's nice to have all these, all singing, all dancing, bells and whistles on your website, but it's probably best to take them off and just keep it, like the header, for example, just keeping it basic, just keeping it a static image rather than
so your
things
guess,
coming in.
Exactly, yeah. I took sliders off a year or so ago, maybe 2 years ago now, off Cog's website. Because the sliders are big, they're cumbersome, they're at the top of the page, so it's what they call above the fold. You want to get your message across as concise as possible on that first top of the screen. So you can either have, it's like with Cog's website, because we've got so many services, I've got probably 50 odd pages, then I've got my blog posts and everything on the website, where some people, if they're a small, concise company, they will only have a single page, and you'll just scroll down, so your contact will be at the bottom. So to have what you do and very concise in the top of the page, and have it displayed very quickly with no scaling. So for instance, images, I've got a couple of photographers I do work with. One of them always wants these all singing, all dancing, massive photographs to show the quality off. Well, that's all very well, but that's the sort of thing that you're going to get picked up by Google by having these big images.
That's a real fine balance, because like I say, anyone, a videographer, a photographer, they want that visual element.
Exactly.
Because that's selling their business. But in the eyes of Google, it just wants to see text, I guess.
It's not so much just text. Yes, there are certain rules. You have headings, there's like H1 through to 6 on websites. So the way it works is your H1 will be, so for instance, yours would be social media, mine creative design probably, Mel's would be flowers, floristry, Norwich, something like that. So you set your stall out with that one, and then you can have subheadings underneath that. So, and you can only have one H1 tag on a page. So that's all part of the vitals as well. So that's all best practice. As long as you deliver stuff in a way that Google would like you to deliver, then it's going to look after you and push you up the listings, and favor you over somebody that's doing lots of bad practice with massive images being scaled. It's like, for instance, I've got one client. They take some really nice photographs of their products and they put them on their website at 5,000 by 4,000 pixels. Well, I run a massive screen. That's bigger than my screen would ever display them. I'd have to zoom in to show all the pictures. So as long as you do what Google sets out and sort of obey those practices. It's all very daunting. I mean, if web design and graphic design isn't your forte, or I'd like to think your web design company would do that. I've always sort of designed and laid things out as the latest Google requirements are. Some clients will want, all singing. I mean, I've always used things like sliders and that, so you can get lots of stuff up in your above the fold. That's no bad practice. So I know that somebody on here's got a slider on their website other than you. I'm now saying, let's get that off. Let's get the statement. So the first landing page at least is compliant with Google, and then we can worry about all the rest of the pages. So I think there's going to be a big change in the way websites look and function and perform.
So that is going to be a big change. But is Web Core Vitals, is that going to be the be all and end all? Will there be further updates? Will there be changes? Do we need to do everything to, I guess, tick all the boxes with Web Core Vitals?
Yeah, I think the trouble is, I think you can always chase numbers, and you can sit there and refresh and refresh and refresh. And I think that's like we did before we came online. You can do speed tests on your page and my page, and you can click refresh 3 times in a row, and you'll get 3 different. They'll all be close, but you'll get different page speeds and everything come up from Google. So it is alchemy in some respects. I mean, if you follow the rules, you will get bumped up. But again, do you sacrifice the look and the feel of your website? Do you rely 100% on your SEO and Google's delivery? And again, we always say you don't search for a website, you Google a website. Let's not forget you've got Bing and sort of other search engines out there. It's quite interesting. I check my Bing status against my Google, and Microsoft seem to love me a little bit more than Google at the moment. But again, I'm rolling out changes and trying things on Cog's website. There's a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction to improve. I'm also developing a new version of my website in the background, and I literally do tests. The way Google looks at it as well, the results you get from a lot of the Google tests will be based on 28-day-old information. So you can make a load of changes now, and you're not going to see the exact benefits for 28 days. Where you can go on and do what they call a lab test, he said. So, for instance, you can go onto this website that I use just to double check my sanity on websites. GT Metrics is a good one. There's a paid account, but you can also check it for free. And you can put in your web address. So, for instance, we did one on yourself, and you come out as a C. So you're rating different to how Google puts it across. But we can see that you've got lots of difference on every single one of these boxes. So it's saying that it's taking 4.2 seconds for your entire screen and the buttons to come up. So that is bad practice, because if I want to contact you, I've got to wait 4 seconds. We've got largest element on your website takes just under 2 seconds to load. They actually like 2.5, so you're actually okay on that one.
So it doesn't sound long; it's just a matter of seconds. But we are all impatient. If it doesn't load up straight away, we're gone.
Yeah. And they're saying that if you're ticking all the boxes for Google, there's a 24% increase in customers and viewers staying on your website.
Okay.
As you say, we're all impatient, and if something doesn't come up, or you don't get what you're expecting, as soon as you hit a website, bang, you're off.
So all these free tools, Martyn, can you send me the links? And what I'll do is when I put it onto Facebook, when I put the video up on the website as well, I'll add those links in the description so we've all got them. Yeah, because this is fascinating. This is.
I mean, out of interest, how many of us use Chrome to do our web viewing? Okay, so that's good, because obviously that's supplying Google with data. And you can get extensions, again we'll put those in, that you can run, so you can have a little bolt-on that sits on your web browser called Lighthouse, and you can go to any web page and you can then run a test on it. So you can do pages within your website, or you can check out your competition and see if they're doing things well, and if they are, you're going to need to keep up. Or
Martyn, sorry, can I just stop you there? Can you just show us how we would add that to as an extension on Google Chrome, please?
I'd have to delete it from there. I mean, the way I did it was that, in fact, if you go to,
So obviously you just Google.
yeah,
Google Lighthouse.
If you Google the extension Google Lighthouse, or there is a link at the bottom of the Google page speeds that you can access and add to that. So, but yeah, we'll put something up, maybe, and do a little step-by-step guide or something to include.
Okay.
That will then go off and do the page review of your site. I've done a few tests on the run up to today, and because I was waiting for somebody to put their hand up if they said they use Wix or one of the other page builders. This is a client we didn't do the website for. We did some 3D work for their van, and we did a big 3D wrap to go around their big Luton van, and we redesigned their logo and supplied that to them and put them on their website. Saw it was Wix, and I had a quick play in the back end, and as you can see, so the people that jump on and say, oh, I'll get my website with Wix or one of the other page builders, even their good practice websites aren't particularly good practice, and because it's Wix, you can't go in and do too much yourself. You can't take that little bit of ownership. You can't run plugins like you can on if you own your own WordPress site and host your own site. I mean, even down to that, we've said hosting, and Steve mentioned that he does the hosting. Hosting is important as well. You can have cloud-based hosting. You can have dedicated servers. If you're sitting on a server with lots of other companies, one of my clients, their website used to take 20 seconds to load. It's because they were on a cloud that was S, and they were on with lots of other S companies on their URLs. And when one of those sites got attacked, had a DDoS attack on them, it took out everybody else's website. The server was so busy it couldn't serve the pages. They're now sitting on my server, which is in the UK, and I'd like to think quite bulletproof.
So a quick question for me: is it important? I've always understood it's important to have UK hosting if you're a .co.uk or perhaps yourself.
.co.uk it's better to be hosted in the UK. Again, part of the Web Vitals, they're saying that it's better to have a cloud distribution. So if somebody in the US is looking at your website, if you're looking to sell your services abroad, it's like for instance for Mel, be a complete waste of time. You don't want to be delivering flowers to New York. It's not practical. So, but I can't help thinking that the Web Vitals isn't the be all and end all, and it's part of a package. And if you can do your own marketing and like using yourself for social media, punting your website out there, you can circumnavigate a organic search. It's a hard one. I think
it is obviously important. You're saying it's not the be all and end all. It's obviously important, but and it obviously affects our ranking in Google.
Yeah, it's going to affect it more and more, and as we see things happen over time, and again, Google will bring something else out and they'll add to the algorithm. I mean, mobile is definitely the way forward. Your site needs to function, whether it's an online shop or an F1 simulator or a web design company or florist or whatever. You need to function. I mean, most people will sit there and it's like my partner. She'll sit there and when there's something on that she doesn't want to watch, she's on her phone and she's buying this, that, and the other offline, and it's all done on her mobile. So mobile delivery and looking after or looking out for those organic searches really just depend on your market. It's a whole package of keeping your social media up to date, keeping your website up to date, following the good practice. There are going to be elements that are out of some people's controls. If you've got your SiteGround or GoDaddy or whoever you host with, you're at the lap of their rules, regulations, and who's sitting on your server. I mean, I've got several servers that are all dedicated. Only my websites sit on them. If I've got customers with like a gold package. They're on an all singing, all dancing box, and their delivery of their websites is 100% guaranteed to be fast, always up.
And that's obviously more expensive to be on a dedicated server.
It's more well, it depends on the clients you go to, or the people you host off, and whether you offer hosting. But yeah, it's always best to have a bulletproof hosting package. That's part and parcel. When things are delivered to a website, as I said earlier, when content is being issued, so you've got your picture, your header, and your little first piece of text. It's how quickly is that being pushed through to your web browser from the server and to the internet. So all those sort of things are looked at, and as long as you've got the again, we'll use a car analogy. I mean, you can put 95 octane fuel or 99 octane fuel in your car. You put the 99 in, you're going to get that little bit of better performance. It'll cost you a little bit more, but it really does depend on how you're using your website as well. I suppose if it is the crux of you getting work in, then yeah, you need to maybe spend a little bit more and make sure your hosting package, and if you're using a web designer or doing it yourself, that you've got the tools to make your website run at a decent speed.
So that's, for me, that's a great analogy with the whole car thing, because if like you say, you could have the top of the range car, but it doesn't guarantee, if you're not getting it serviced, there can be thousands of things that could just be one thing that's not working under that bonnet. It's going to affect the performance, and that's the same with your website. You could have an all singing, all dancing website, best hosting package. You've done everything you believe is right in best SEO practices, but it could be one thing in the algorithm that's letting you down.
Yeah, but again, it's like with the Web Core Vitals, having sort of trouble is there's lots of people that were jumping on and knee jerking, and there's lots of opinions on it. The way the Web Vitals, as far as I'm aware, perhaps you can back me up on this, Steve, is the way Google rates it is it's also down to your niche. So, for instance, if you were doing, let's use web design as a core, if you had some bad practice on your website, but you were better than all the other web companies that were in that search, you will be favored. So it's the best of a bad thing, almost. So as long as you can keep above your competition on those searches, and as you've done with your training in the past, you've got the very relevant tools that you can see what you're searching for and what your competition is being searched for. As long as you can keep ahead of the game, then you should be served above Google, other than your competition, other than the people that obviously have the little bold ADs and they've paid to get there ahead of you.
All right, apologies there. My PC, I don't know, you obviously carried on without me, but my PC just froze completely. So I don't know what I missed or where I got to, and I've tried to, it's now converting the recording, so this may be recorded in 2 sessions, so apologies for that. I don't know what happened there. So where were we up to, Martyn? Were you having a look at Lighthouse?
We had a quick look at Lighthouse.
Okay.
Then Steve and I went off on a slight tangent. Where are we? There we go. Here's the Lighthouse. So, for instance, we've just done a run through on yours. So there you go. You've done nothing this morning, Martyn, and you've gone from 8 to 11. So I'll pop my invoice in for that one at the end of the call. So yeah, you've got your performance, your best practice. Like we've spoken about best practice. So having things like your secure element on your website. So you've got your padlock, your decent hosting, you're delivering imagery in the right formats. That's what we basically went over while you were having issues with your PC. Yeah, so like this is Lighthouse going through. Steve mentioned that you obviously on the Google page speed, you're only getting one value, where on a lot of the videos that are on YouTube at the moment, you're getting some of the Lighthouse information coming in there, and that's something that I think is being rolled out. Seems to be everybody in America is getting a different slight layout to their Google results than we are over here, so that's obviously going to follow hopefully over the next sort of weeks and months. Okay. But it's best practice, Martyn, so you're doing some things right, so that's that's good. Your SEO is pretty good. Obviously could be better.
Yeah.
But performance, and the performance, your major hit is down to your slider. So get rid of the slider, maybe take the information you've got from that, deliver it as a still, get it at the top of the screen, make sure it looks great on mobile. Then make sure that obviously your desktop's looking good. Even down to generating these nice, pretty, colourful backgrounds. That's all a hit to your website. There's somebody I've done business with in the past. He always used to have a motto of, "Does it make the boat go faster?" So does that? Am I going to buy from your services anymore because we go from purple through to teal, or whether that was just a standard colour? Saying that, I do the same. So
all these things, we're trying to make our website look nice, but they could be working against us.
Yeah, exactly. So it's and again, you can go through Google Lighthouse, and that will give you a little bit of an insight. It's probably going to bombard you with, and let's face it, most people when they look at stuff, where's the? He said. We've got all the errors and everything coming in, and all the things that could be improved on. Your average Joe Soap isn't going to be able to do much looking at this. You can see that you need something done, and you can then either take the initiative to get on the phone to me or Steve or whoever to have a look at your website and improvements. See a lot of people getting new websites.
All right, brilliant. Thanks, Martin. Just conscious of the time. My apologies for me dipping out there. I'll use any excuse just to have a quick doze, but I honestly don't know what happened there. It just completely froze, so I had to restart it. Do we have any questions from anyone? Is there anything you'd like to add to that, Steve? Obviously, you're in the sort of same line of business as Martin. Anything you'd like to add there?
No, I don't think so. I think Martin's actually put this over really quite concise, and quite easy to understand. So that's really good.
Cheers, thank that means a lot. Thanks, Steve.
Jamie?
Yeah, Martin, do you have a high-level blog called something like How to Make Google Love Me? Sort of high-level bits and pieces that people really should do at the very least.
Yeah, it's probably Steve's the same. I find it's a case of the cobbler's shoes, too busy doing stuff for everybody else to do my own. It's something that I'd like to sit down and do, and it's going to be a never-ending process. Google are well within their rights to make changes day in, day out. Yes, there are some good practices. I think that is probably something maybe Martin and I work on something and get it into the groups as well.
There is something like Google have got their own, I think like a starter guide. It's a PDF that you can download.
Brilliant.
So is that worth linking to, Martin?
We can. It's a little bit like the Haynes manual. People in the past, showing my age, you buy the Haynes manual on your car, you open it up again.
Yeah.
The cover, the index page, and a few glossy pictures in there you might look at. But it's knowing you've got the issues is probably the best start. And then, as I say, the likes of Steve and myself can either guide you, or you can have a go yourself. There's certain things you can do, but again, there's a lot of sites out there that are going to try and suck you in, and for only $49 you can we'll do this, we'll do that. I'd give those a bit of a wide berth. There are if you really want to go in depth, there are companies that will do $250. They will go through and they will strip out all the unnecessary and all the unloading or the unused code that sits in the background of your website, and get improvements. But at the end of the day, I think if you've still got people coming in and you can do all your self-promotion, you can lose sleep and chase numbers. And again, you can go on and you can do, it's like I'll do a Google test on my page or your page. On Google, yet you go on GT metrics, which again, I sort of quite rate what they have to put across, and it's a little bit more in the here and now. So you can go on and make a change to your website and get real-time feedback. So I know I can go in and turn settings on in some of the more complex plugins. So, for instance, I mean, I've got various tests that I've done on my website and clients' websites, and I've got a majority of my clients into the A's. But when you do a test on Google, you may not quite hit that. But I'm quite pleased that bearing in mind, I've had people in the past say, "Oh yeah, you use Elementor as your page builder. You get a hammering, you'll never get an A on Google or on GT metrics." But there we go. So that's using a lot of bloated code effectively, but still I've got performance of 97 and structure 95. So and my cumulative shift of 0. So as it appears on the screen, that's where it stays. You can go to click on a button as it appears, and that's where it will appear on Google. So
a lot of that was complete foreign language to me.
Exactly.
So
that was the sort of the worry I had, that Steve and I could understand what was going across on them, and maybe Jamie.
Okay.
But it's you can have a lot of sleepless nights over it, but there are ways and means through improvements to the website, but it's just the way you advertise and promote your website as well. So,
anyone else got any other questions before we wrap up? No, all happy with that? Martyn, thanks very much. Say again, apologies again for dipping out at such an important time there. For me, it's been very, very informative. Quite scary seeing the results for my own websites or my own website. So yeah, it's going to be some changes made to my sites there. So thank you very much, Martyn. Thanks everyone for joining us this morning. It's been very, very valuable. I'll see what the recordings come out like. I think it's probably going to be in two, part 1 and part 2. But certainly the main bulk of the part one I'll get up on the website and onto the Facebook group as well. Martyn, if you can send me those links to those free tools, I will then put them in the group as well.
Yeah, no worries.
The fact that they're free is great.
Yeah.
But they're going to be very useful for all of us, I think. So excellent.
That's
Thanks,
great.
Martyn. Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
Martyn. Fantastic.
Have a great day. I'll speak to you soon.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Bye.